So I'm Kelly Alexander with CARE, and I'm here with my two amazing colleagues from CARE Madagascar who will be presenting on the public-private partnership for the RANO WASH project. Before we get started, I just want to make sure, like, everyone showered this morning. Like, you woke up and you knew that the water would be on, and you knew you could shower if you wanted to, right? You knew you weren't going to have to go collect water, or you knew that somebody at the hotel had paid the water bill, right? And so water was going to be coming out of the spout when you turned it on. So just when we talk about public-private partnerships and we talk about private utilities or public utilities, it's just good to always remember, what do we think of as our standard? You know, like, we pay for water. When my toilet breaks, I pay for someone to fix it. When a pipe busts, I don't fix it myself. I pay for somebody to do it. So just getting us all to think a little bit more about that. And so when we were originally thinking about a PPP or public-private partnership, we had a specific model in mind. Right, where is that? Here it is, this one. So this is what we originally were envisioning.
Welcome to the rural commune of Mbomadiou, with its 8 full-time led by Mrs. Malala, the mayor of the commune. She received special training from RANO WASH, a project funded by USAID to provide the residents of her commune with equitable, sustainable access to high-quality washing services for all. A company named Hygiene was selected to partner with RANO WASH to effectively manage and sustain high-quality wash services in the Bhutan. Hygiene will provide the 13% of the total budget of the infrastructure. RANO WASH helped Hygiene to obtain a bank loan to pay its part and to secure its investments to extend to other areas. The remaining budget is provided by RANO WASH. As a result, most of the residents of Akadilala now have access to drinking water, either through private or social water connection. On the other hand, many villages in Bhutan with the community cannot have access to drinking water because of their remoteness. This is the reason why RANO WASH supported the company to collaborate with trained local private operators to improve the quality of the water used by the community in this remote area. As such, local masons were selected to improve and protect the existing wells and springs. Some tailors are also making washable sanitary pads for girls and women. The project also supports them to create water cleaning products they purchase from Hygiene. Schools and health centers in the community of Mbomadiou are benefiting from the infrastructure built by Hygiene. RANO WASH is also creating incentive for local population to adhere to village saving and loan associations in order to improve their income and help them to afford access to drinking water. The population of Mbomadiou is satisfied with the services because the water service providers, the communal authorities, the local consultation structure, and the civil society organizations are taking the responsibilities by ensuring good quality of services and raising the community voices. The commune of Mbomadiou is now branded as a model commune.
Okay, so this video is fictitious. It didn't actually happen. That commune doesn't actually exist. So Avo is going to discuss a little bit about what it actually looks like to do PPP within Madagascar.
Hello, everyone. Me, Avra Tuardzon, Deputy Chief of Party, and my colleague Harsura Samuel, Chief Change Senior Advisor of the CARE International RANO WASH project in Madagascar, are pleased today to have this opportunity to share with you our experience on the impacts and learnings from the PPP for drinking water supply in Madagascar with the RANO WASH project. The video is just the initial concept that we envisioned for what is the model of PPP in Madagascar. The presentation will develop more the realities, the challenges encountered, and how we have achieved that we have so far. Here is the agenda for our session to give you a taste of the presentation. PPP context in Madagascar. After this, RANO WASH strategies and approaches to PPP for rural water services, the performance and sustainability of water services providers and the impact on services, And the last point, key considerations for future investment in rural water PPPs. We want to give you a brief overview of the RANO WASH project before going into depth of our strategies for private sector engagement and PPP for safe water services. RANO WASH is a 6-year project funded by the USAID. The project is implemented by a consortium composed of CARE, CRS, WaterAid, BushProof, and Sandrandrano. We are working in 250 municipalities in 7 regions in Madagascar. The project aims to increase equitable and sustainable access of rural communities to water services for improved health, nutrition, and environmental conservation. To achieve this goal, we have 3 strategic objectives: strengthening governance and monitoring of the water sector at all levels in Madagascar, engaging with private sector for equitable and sustainable water services, and finally, changing the behavior of the population and the use of water services. We integrate gender and social inclusion into all areas of the project. The flowered here is part of our presentation on behavior change and gender, which is on Friday morning. RANO WASH promotes a systems approach to contribute to the achievement of the SDG 6. We are adopting the system strengthening model that you see in the slide, the WaterAid model. We contribute to the strengthening of each block by working closely with the government to improve the national and regional framework documents, the monitoring and evaluation system, the coordination of the sector, institutional arrangements according to the bylaws, the accountability mechanism, the planning system, the sector financing. We are also promoting the engagement of the private sector to invest in the sector and provide the water services that meet the standards and the needs of the people. The project also strengthens the commitment of the communities to access services, use the various accountability mechanism, and make their voice heard. Madagascar has had the Malagasy Water Code since 1998. Its application decrees were promulgated 4 years after its publication. Then, in 2004, the Public Procurement Code appeared. However, it does not allow the private financing of infrastructure, and the code even prohibits the use of innovative and comprehensive contractual techniques, such as the one called partnership contract, according to which a private partner can finance, design, build a public interest infrastructure, operate it on behalf of the public entity, or only assisted in the exploitation by maintenance or operating services in both cases without delegation of the public service. Hence, the complement brought by the law on PPP in 2015 and other measures marking the sector. Despite these legal frameworks that have existed for years, it can be said that the operationalization of the drinking water PPP model is still in a continuous learning phase. The wash sector was not seen as potential area for private investment. It is worth noting that some private sector investment initiatives took place before the PPP law and were carried out based on the water code. The demand is there. The supply is almost non-existent. The field of intervention is still vast. RANO WASH has conducted wash market analysis in the project intervention regions, and the figures on this slide summarize the results of the analysis on the drinking water sector. 70% of the rural Malagasy population, at least for the 7 regions of intervention of the RANO WASH project, did not have access to drinking water at the beginning of the project. which is confirmed by the latest mixed data on the graph on the right. This represents more than $100 million of latent turnover. The rural population is already paying to access non-potable water, river water, traditional well water, water that is several hundred meters away from their homes. The tariff from improved water services is 10 to 15 times less than what people are currently paying. It includes time spent, paying people to fetch water for household, and impacts of drinking non-potable water on health and incomes. This is not logical, but most people in rural areas in Madagascar are reluctant to changes. RANOWASH did a study on behavior determinants and developed behavior change strategy to address this. In general, operation of wash sector financing in Madagascar, according to the CHACFIN Madagascar in 2015, users pay 49% of sector financing. So the willingness to pay of users exists. Still, to achieve the SDG 6 by 2030, water and sanitation for all, Madagascar needs at least $2 billion of investment at a rate of $180 million per year of intervention. What are the challenges faced by the project in implementing the PPP model and engaging the private sector in the wash sector? The legal frameworks for securing investment and the effectiveness of decentralizing power and resources are not well known. The dissemination of legal framework is a major task to get all actors in the same boat. The wash sector is not seen by either the government or the private sector as a potential economic sector. This has required a major paradigm shift to encourage the government to consider the private sector as a stakeholder, the partner in developing the sector. There is a need to develop an enabling environment for private sector engagement, to get the private sector to engage, and for all actors to adopt the systemic and the market approach. PPP is still perceived as being for large projects unsuitable for rural areas. In addition, the government and wash sector actors on the one hand and the private sector on the other speak two different languages. There is a need to demystify the PPP concept, to make all stakeholders understand the added value of PPP and the role and responsibilities of each party. And finally, the necessary capacity building of all stakeholders, companies, government at all levels, communities. The companies that get involved are small and medium-sized enterprises. So the training should not only be about PPP, the laws enforced, but also about service coverage, management tools, financial tools, marketing strategy, etc. I now give the floor to my colleague Harsu to present the RANOWASH PPP strategy.
Thank you, Avu. Let's move on with our strategy. So, as already mentioned, private sector engagement is a paradigm shift promoted by RANOWASH in the wash sector in Madagascar. We learned from the definition of the private sector according to UNICEF and ODE shown on the slide that the private sector should not be limited to members of the private sector providing wash services, but may be private sectors or other services needed by the sector and those who can work with sector actors for sector development. Our model of wash system strengthening emphasizes the market approach, engaging the private sector as a contributing actor in strengthening several blocks of the system. In promoting PPP for drinking water services, RANOWASH worked with several actors, wash ministries at the national and regional level, the communes of intervention, other ministries related to WASH, services such as the Ministry of National Education, Public Health, Interior and Decentralization, Finance and Budget. The project supported the ministry and communes to have a framework documents to clarify strategies and plans for access to WASH services, to improve the monitoring and evaluation system, to consider private service, WASH enterprise with financial and investment institutions and guarantees to facilitate access to funding for the sector. RANOWASH trained and coached civil society organizations to promote WASH rights and duties, to ensure that the voices of all categories of people are heard through the various accountability mechanisms available at the commune level. Private operators also involved in the environmental conservation and water resource management for sustainable service. So this slide summarizes RANOWASH strategic framework for private sector engagement. We have three main objectives: support public, private, and civil society actors to develop the WASH market, promote an enabling environment for private sector investment, and put people at the heart of actions, leave no one behind in times of stability and crisis or in cataclysmic situation. In all the activities undertaken, the project has ensured that the value for the people, the consideration of gender and social inclusion, that no one is left behind, and that the communes and private operators have environmental preservation plans that consider climate change. The project has worked with all stakeholders to ensure that the models developed are cost-effective and consider the economy of scale. So that balancing business profitability and social issues is still a major challenge. We continue to improve the business model and to coach private operators to analyze their business, improve their strategy, to develop the market and increase service coverage. The project has developed a 20-year management delegation contract between the commune and the private operator with WASH Ministry. This contract not only clarifies the roles and responsibilities of each stakeholder, but also defines the pricing of services so as not to harm the private operator or the users of services. The project has adopted several approaches to develop private sector engagement in the WASH sector. We have promoted all market opportunities through various activities to encourage all actors to work in, for, and with the WASH sector. Technical assistance and capacity building for all stakeholders also play important roles. To ensure sustainability, we worked with the ministry, private sector actors, and members of civil society organizations in designing, implementing, and facilitating strategies. To give examples of activities relating to market development, we have conducted WASH market surveys and developed WASH market development plans by regions. Some reports of these activities are available on the project website, and you are kindly invited to visit our website at ranwash.org. The project provided technical assistance for developing the communal market-oriented development plan to support the communes. Together with other WASH actors in Madagascar, we fed the WASH actors mapping to consider private sector actors. RANOWASH also identified potential young and female entrepreneurs and provided them with capacity building to become professionals in the sector. For example, young university students have become providers of automatic water kiosks recognized by the ministry and sector actors. The project has supported communes wishing to upgrade their water systems that have been poorly operational due to the lack of management. Private access to financing services was a major challenge cited by the private sector. Financing institutions do not consider WASH services to have economic potential, and those private actors cannot present them with credit-worthy applications. We worked with banks and investment and guarantee institutions already working with the energy sector to convince them of the potential of the water sector and link them with private operators to help them develop credit-worthy applications and find a partnership ground between them. Regional fairs have been organized by the project with the WASH ministry. And as already mentioned, private sector actors still needed capacity building. In addition to the training and coaching provided by the project, we have linked private operators with business incubator organizations. And we are setting up a PPP toolkit on the project website to be transferred to the WASH ministry and other platforms. This graph summarizes the PPP models. So the PPP models adopted by the project, we see here three main actors: the commune and the private operator linked by a 20-year management, construction, and investment contract. And then the service users here, who are linked with a private operator by a service subscription contract and who pay the service fees according to the water consumption. The WASH ministry co-signs the management contract with the commune and acts as a regulator. Then, as already shared in the previous slides, we add the importance of the involvement of financial institutions to facilitate access to financing by the private operators, but also savings and loans associations, or TSLA, that support households to have more money to subscribe to water services, and also especially local structures such as the local consultation structure and civil society organizations to transmit the voice of the population to the commune and service providers. This model still depends on a project like RANOWASH that provides a large part of the initial investment, meaning 80 to 90%. Following the activities of putting communes in contact with private operators, we have supported the WASH ministry in developing a concept where private operators can submit an unsolicited application to the communes to become the manager, investor, and builder of WASH system. And now I will give back the floor to Abu to share our achievements.
RANOWASH has contributed to the evolution of drinking water PPP in Madagascar. This slide summarizes the challenges encountered, especially the change of the leaders at the ministry's level, which slowed down the progress, as the project had to resume and rework with new leaders with each change. During the 5 years of implementation, there were also 5 successive ministers to convince on the importance of the private sector involvement on the laws already enforced in Madagascar favoring the PPP. Also noteworthy are the various crises such as the COVID-19, the significant increase in fuel prices that make the private sector reluctant to invest in a sector like drinking water. We are nevertheless proud of the achievements with more than 190,000 people having access to water services, thanks to the support of the project and 69 communes are currently working with 21 manager, investor, constructor companies. This slide shows an example of a private operator that began investing in water services with the PPP model developed under the project, and subsequently initiated service extension with their own resources and those of the municipalities. The RANO company, after investing in the commune of Anusbe-Ifudi, a water system covering 3,700 people, has expanded into other localities of the same municipality, now covering more than 10,000 inhabitants. In addition, it has developed a partnership with 2 other neighboring municipalities. This is another profile of a manager. This is another profile of a manager, investor, builder. Luvavelu manages 19 drinking water systems in 11 rural communes in 4 regions of Madagascar, provides access to safe drinking water to approximately 15 beneficiaries alone, produces 12,500 cubic meters of paid water per month, managing 2,300 private water connections and more than 600 social connections. It has provided an investment of $300,000 for drinking water since 2017. Its water rate varies between 1/4 to 50 cents per cubic meter. It employs 33 people, of which 9 are permanent and 24 are on service contract. In terms of strategic performance, the Luvavelu company has achieved the following results. In 4 years of operation exercise, it has reached 97% of its target in terms of social and private connection. It sold an average 30,000 cubic meters of drinking water instead of 50,000 cubic meters targeted in its business plan. Its system initially serves 30 liters of water per day per person at the private connection level. The consumption was around 28 liters per person per day on its annual average. According to these company findings, people connected with social connection consume less water. Their rate is cheaper than the private connections rate. The company cannot increase the water service tariffs according to the management contract with the commune. The companies identify the following as its strengths and areas for improvement. The competent and well-supervised staff contribute to the development of the services. There is also the development and implementation of a marketing strategy adapted to the needs of the service users. The company should have a good relationship. The company has also a good relationship with the municipalities and the ministry at regional level, good payer of taxes, regular submission of periodical reports, ensuring permanent exchanges with the municipalities regarding the complaints of the service users. Luvavelu has also developed a relationship of trust with supplier of equipment and materials and has obtained payment facilities. This has enabled it to respond to orders for household connection according to their payment schedule. As for the points to be improved, the company needs to refrain from having interventions spread out and distant from each other. It should focus on achieving district level coverage. This will allow economies of scale and thus reduce the budget related to fixed charges. Despite the good working relationship with the municipalities, Louva-Velu still needs to increase the tariff as stated in the contract. They had not done so because they are afraid of how the government and users will react if they do so. They feel like the private's profitability is not a priority. The inflation did not encourage them either. And lastly, strengthening and continuing the implementation of marketing strategy is important to extend the coverage of services. Some lessons learned that we would like to share to close our presentation. Demystify the PPP concept and adapt it to different contexts. It is possible to adapt the models. Example, start with small projects but cover several localities and have models of water connection according to the targets. Automatic water kiosk, for example. In our experience, the private sector can bring from $1,000 to $100,000 to manage a water system. Adopt the systems approach, supporting the government in developing and enabling environment for private sector engagement. Clear sector framework document, law enforcement, monitoring and evaluation system, accountability mechanism at all levels. Systematize the process to be followed for the implementation of the PPP, negotiation between the private sector and the municipality, contractualization. RANO WASH has started to set up the PPP toolbox, as already shared on the project website, to contribute to this, and we transmit it to the WASH Ministry and other platforms available in Madagascar. Engage communities throughout the process so that they understand the roles of all stakeholders, the benefits of the PPP, and that they are there to the payment for services, subscription, and recurrent payment for services. Strengthen access to financing, linking private sector with financing institutions with technical and financial support. Continue the business models analysis with companies to explore profitability and identify strategy with private sector to make the systems more profitable. That ends our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Are there any questions for our presenters? Do you guys want to come up here? Yes. You can come up here. Yes.
So my first question is, you work in rural area, but you haven't spoken about schools or health facilities. So did you also target schools and health facilities, and how did you do that?
Okay, so
Yeah, use the microphone. Sorry.
yes, the answer of your question, yes, is yes. We are working with schools and healthcare facilities. We were using the national approach, which is a wash-friendly process. And with the water system, we connect the schools and the healthcare facilities to the system so that they can have access to drinking water. And that is hard support when we connect them with when we connect them and we support them with infrastructure, but we also build their capacity so that they can practice the hygiene behavior at the school level and at the healthcare facilities. And we also support them to develop plans on how to operate and maintain the wash services at their level. We have also supported many schools and healthcare, maybe not many, but about 100 schools and healthcare facilities to have sanitation services. And we also use nudges to help students and children to adopt hygiene behavior, especially in hand washing with soap.
Just to add relating to water services, schools and health centers, there is two kinds of water connection. The first one is private connection at home and the social connection for 5 to 10 households. And schools and health centers obtain social connection as well, but they have to pay fees of water while consuming.
Thank you.
Yes, Peter and Anna.
Could you explain the role of BushProof and Sandrandrano, because they have a slightly different role in the partnership from KFCRS and WaterAid, and also maybe comment on fact that those local partners have been working for many years on developing the approach for private operators.
Thank you very much for raising this. Yes, BushProof and Sandrandrano are the two members of the private sector in the consortium of the project. Sandrandrano is really a company well known of the PPP experience in Madagascar. We can say that Sandrandrano is the pioneer of PPP in Madagascar, and Sandrandrano plays the role of coaching, to be the coach of the private operators on the PPP model, and to coach as well the government on the model of PPP. And Sandrandrano also has really expertise on different infrastructure technologies, for example, hybrid dam, and they provided training and coaching to private operators to build climate resilient infrastructure. For BushProof, the expertise of BushProof is more on water quality and on drilling. So both played the role of coach and trainer of these small private operators in Madagascar during the life of the project. One other there, and you want to this, please.
Great. I just a question, I guess on incentivizing operators, private side when it comes to like who owns the infrastructure. So I guess I can see where you run into issues without being unable to adjust that tariff. There's not an incentive, I guess. Has you found there's lack of incentive for them to take care of that infrastructure in the long run? And then is there fees associated with those that want to come into the infrastructure later on and connect to the system? I guess what would be the incentive for them to reach a regional, like why would they want to become regional if the infrastructure like has already been financed, or like they don't have any financial incentive within the actual infrastructure itself? I get ownership of it.
Just to maybe just to give the context in Madagascar and the laws, what said the laws in Madagascar. In Madagascar, infrastructure remain property of, is it English?
Property, yeah.
Property of sorry, the property of the government, of the public sector. Private operators has a 20-year management contract, delegation management contract from the government. So during this, the project supported them to establish a business plan, which explained that there will be return of investment during this period. And that is why we say that it is a learning process. We are still working with these private operators to ensure that, but we can say that now we have a list of more than 90 small private operators interested to engage, to invest in the water services now in Madagascar. Yes.
Yeah, you almost answered my question, but I'd like to just come back to the packet. First of all, let me compliment you on a very thorough presentation. But my question is, to what extent does the private sector invest in the initial capital outlay? and what percent of the investment is public investment? Because then you also spoke about the return on investment. Are we talking about return on investment on the public investment? Or the return on investment on the private sector investment? I'm sorry, I come to this with a business mind as well as a watch mind. The idea and concept is great, but I'm a little bit confused about the numbers at this stage.
So I'm going to try to answer the question first and then give the floor back to Avu. So when we talking about investment, of course, during the project, most of the investment, the public investment, were done by the project because we were kind of taking the role of supporting the government as the public investment. They don't have enough money. So when we talk about the return on investment, we talk about the all investment, the private and the public ones. It's the all investment made in the wash infrastructure, in the wash services. So for the private sector, when they invest 5%, for example, it will be the return of investment of their own investment. We also
But are they profitable? Yes. Okay, I think the question is like also is that for the private sector, are the private sector operators profitable? Est-ce qu'ils gagnent de l'argent? Est-ce qu'ils font un bénéfice?
Yes. Yes, it is profitable, but not in the short term. That's why we are talking about a 20-year contract management, because it takes time to be profitable.
Maybe 8 years. Or
8 years.
4 to 8 years, 4 to 8 years from our experiences now.
Yes.
I want to expand on this question. It's really interesting. Thanks for talking about it.
Yes.
Like, as a private sector operator, right?
Mhm.
If I go to Madagascar, first of all, number one is working with government is very complicated. Travailler avec le gouvernement, c'est très difficile.
Yes.
So how do you ensure me as a private sector operator that I'm gonna be able to at least break even like social enterprise, just break even.
Mhm.
Pas de profit, mais pas de perte.
Mhm.
And that the government is giving me like an 8-year contract or 20 years, that's fine for me.
Mhm.
But how do I make sure that they're gonna keep their promise?
Yeah, it is true. Madagascar is the politic in Madagascar is not a stable one. And it is true. That is why I cannot really say 100%. But that is why we have worked also on governance. We have supported the government to have a document framework such as strategies, wash policies, and wash plans of Madagascar. And the government in place should follow all of these legal documents. That is why we are not only focusing on private sector engagement, but seeing it as a system, considering the governance, the place of the government as important as well, to develop an enabling environment for the private sector engagement. And not only the government, but also civil society organization. They are trained, they are active now in the field to fight against these politicians, if I can say this, to improve this environment.
Find that out, but maybe you can explain the contract between the government, the commune, the water community group, and Sandrandrano, or the private sector operator. And that the most important thing back in the day was that contract, the legal contract, which addresses their concerns, that it's approved by the ministry.
Yes.
And it's accepted by the legal system. We spent like 5 or 6 years trying to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the key thing, I think.
yeah. Yes.
Can I just add to what was said there? And that is that it's a local contract. It's a standard form of contract between the commune, the community, and the private operation. So everybody uses the standard contract. But the bottom line is that unless the community continues to pay the private operator who's responsible for going around and collecting the fees, then the system won't get maintained and will fall out of use. So there's an incentive on all parties to stand by the agreement. So that if the private operator doesn't maintain, then the community loses out. And they will stop maintaining it if they're not paid. And because the money is passing through them, they don't have to, the money's not routed through the commune, it comes straight back to the private operator. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's been set up so that everybody has incentives to abide by the.
And private operators pay taxes also to the communes from the services.
So the government, like, because I work in different countries where, let's say in Ethiopia, we have contract with the government. And some donors pay a part and the government pay a part. So it's co-pay. It's like PPP, but it's also co-investment. So my question to you is, I understand what the gentleman said. When you kickstart the project, USAID pays nothing to the contractor. That's why I want to be clear about that. From what I understand,
USAID has.
quand vous commencez le contrat, USAID, il paye rien au privé.
Au
Il
privé,
ne finance pas le
non, le privé, mais l'infrastructure, le CAPEX, the CAPEX, the USAID project paid 80 to 90% of the investment. What we have really explained as well is a project such as RANO WASH do not pay taxes during the implementation of the project. So we consider these taxes as investment as well from the public side. There was many hand raised, but I am a woman.
Related to that, I mean, I think we saw a couple of really good examples. Do you have data on, I forget, the 60 or 90 partnerships that were set up? How many of those did fall apart, especially, I mean, COVID would have been probably additional challenges for the financial viability. So do you know how many have failed? Or I'm assuming some failed.
For the moment, all the 69 water systems are operational in the field for the moment. It does not mean that the coverage is 100%. There is coverage from, I think, 40 to 80% of coverage for the moment. The payment of services is still there as the project support as well, the private operators, but we are continuing the capacity building of the private operator, of the communes, and even the communities to make it operational for a long time. And they are there, the private operators are there to extend services to increase the coverage of the services.
Thank you. I don't know if it was explained before. I wasn't attending a class, so that's something that you already said. So I'm really sorry. But I'm interested in this discussion about the regulation. There's a role for regulation to have a kind of independent regulator. I'm asking this because this was my role before I came here, and we couldn't put those concessions for rural areas, and we're not able to do that one for urban. And we felt that regulation was a big part of that. So I hear about it. To have an independent regulator, independent chief commission, something like this. That's the concern for the gentleman about how do you guarantee that the government will keep this word in the future.
Yes, really, the regulation is still a challenge in Madagascar. Why I say this? Because according to the law, there should be a regulator body in Madagascar, which does not exist for the moment. So it is played by the Ministry of Wash for the moment. Fortunately, one private operators among the 69 did not honor their responsibilities, and we had supported the commune to change to resiliate this contract. As the project is still there, we worked with the ministry and the commune to do this, but we know that it is a challenge in case there is one party who not really respect the contract. It is a challenge, and it is really, as we said, learning by doing during the process.
I would like to add just a thing about how important it was for us to make interventions at different levels, at local, regional, and national levels, because there are something happening at national level, but we also made a lot of capacity building at local level. The communes, what we call maîtrise d'ouvrage communal. So the communes own, it is the public service, it is their roles. And we also worked with Ministry of Decentralization to help support the decentralization process. And that the decentralization is about the power, but also about the resources. Of course, that is still a very big challenge for us, as at national level, there is the tendency to keep the control and not give the control to local government. And that is also another challenge that we face in Madagascar.
So I have a few questions, but so I'm new to this topic. I thought it was interesting, so I came wrong. So I apologize if my question was mixed up. So earlier you said that the private sector actors don't see the wash sector work as economically beneficial to them. I would expect that those conversations to convince them to invest even like 5% would be very difficult. Like, how do you frame that conversation? I know that you have a whole framework and strategy, but like, how do you convince them, like, you know, you're not going to see anything 4 to 8 years down the road, and this is a 20-year contract. Like, what does that conversation look like?
It was not just the tendering process to get the private sector engaged in such a PPP model. There was trainings, there was many communication activities, and we supported the ministry to organize different events on December 1st to 4th of December, for example, this year, the Ministry of Wash in Madagascar will organize a national fair for private sectors to let them know the economic potential in the wash sector. So we have organized many kinds of activities such as this to make people know that there is something to gain. You can earn from wash services.
And to add to this, there is also opportunities in the general sense in Madagascar and entrepreneurship promotion. There are a lot of young people who comes out of university and they don't have something to do. So we present it as an opportunity to create jobs for themselves. See, this is an opportunity. You can create enterprises, you can operate wash services, you can have contracts with communes. So also as an opportunity of entrepreneurship in Madagascar.
Please, just to manage time, I will ask him to the last question, and we will have the opportunity after this to discuss in small groups, and we can discuss more details of your questions. Sorry for this, but just to manage our time.
Yeah, thank you. So I noticed that climate change and I think water resource management was a component of the strategy. Could you talk a bit about what the primary challenges are in relation to the stress that climate change puts on wash systems in Madagascar, and how the PPP model has had difficulty trying to
For such project, and you cite the funded project is doing an environmental assessment before infrastructure construction is required. So from this assessment, we developed with the private operators environmental mitigation plan. Included in this, the water quality assessment, the management of the watershed management. And there is a sensitization at the community level. There is responsibilities from the commune, from the private sector as well in this. So all of these are included in the environmental mitigation plans.
Thank you.
I give it back the floor to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great, so you may have noticed, we have 3 groups. We have government over there by that posted, and over here is private sector, and over here is community and civil society. And we just choose a group that you find interesting, either that you know about, that you've been a part of in a previous job, or maybe one that you don't know much about. And just, we think it would be really useful to discuss what is needed from your specific actor, from one of those 3 actors, to extend services to rural areas and increase revenue. You know, we've talked a lot about what would give a private sector incentive. So that discussion can continue here, but also like how can a private sector play the role in increasing the revenue in rural areas? And here we've put up our building blocks again, building blocks that were have been part of this program all along, and it might help you think through some of the factors that will contribute to answering the question.